So picture this. You wake up, you have your coffee, you make an offering to the Lord and Savior Valentino Rossi before heading out for your weekly Sunday morning ride. You go down your apartment's parking garage, and in an instant, your entire sense of security implodes. Your bike is gone! No trace, no clues, and the thief wasn't even kind enough to leave a note to let you know that he took it. Just a cold, empty spot where your pride and joy was left when you parked it the night before. That pit in your stomach is what it feels like to be one of the tens of thousands of riders who every single year have their bikes stolen. So in today's video, we're gonna dive head first into the cold, dark underworld of motorcycle theft. Why are bikes so commonly stolen? And where do they actually go? And what are the chances of them actually being recovered should they disappear? We're based here in Austin, Texas, which has had a huge amount of motorcycle theft in the last 5 years. It sometimes feels like it's becoming an epidemic here in the city with how often I hear of bikes being stolen. So we may pepper in some insights or statistics from our own community to offer some context for the topic. But make no mistake, what's happening here is likely happening in other major cities across the country and all over the world. So how bad is this problem really? Is it as common as we've all been led to believe, or is this just another case of an incredibly vocal minority? According to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, nearly 55,000 motorcycles were stolen across the US in 2022. That's about 4,500 per month. Does that not sound scary enough? How about 150 per day? And you could be next! Before you start panicking, let's put it into perspective. There's roughly 9 million registered motorcycles in America, which means roughly 1 out of every 165 bikes gets stolen each year. That's not totally astronomical. But the longer you ride and the more bikes you own, the easier it is to feel that your time is coming sooner rather than later. But the interesting statistic is that only about 42% of stolen motorcycles are ever recovered. And of those 42%, many that are recovered are totaled beyond repair. So it kind of begs the question, where the hell do the other 58% go? Do they just vanish into thin air? So why are bikes stolen? Obviously, we all love motorcycles, but why do thieves love them too? First off, it's way easier to steal a motorcycle than a car. A bike is relatively light, small, and easy for a couple of guys to get into the back of a van or a truck. Bikes are also pretty simple, many without any sort of security system or even a keyed ignition with an immobilizer. Features that are common on nearly every car made in the modern era, except for Kias and Hyundais, and look how that turned out. All the core components of a bike are exposed to the world. The ignition, the steering lock, they're all right there to be tampered with. Not having to break a window is one less thing for a thief to worry about, or risk attracting attention from. Motorcycles are also commonly owned as a second vehicle. They sit outside or in a shared garage, often for days on end without being used or anyone paying attention. They could go missing and the owner might not even realize it for a day or two. A lot of bikes have been in production for a long time too, often in unchanged ways, and that's very appealing to a professional thief because it means there will be a much higher demand to sell the parts ripped from it by a chop shop. Also, people who don't ride usually pay little mind to motorcycles. A thief could be in broad daylight fiddling with the steering lock and someone might not even think anything's out of the ordinary. They might say, oh, the owner's just wrenching on his bike, what's new? Versus somebody smashing a window from a car and pulling wires from beneath the dashboard that's probably going to raise some red flags for nearly anyone who has a surface level understanding of car ownership. Motorcycle theft is also one of those crimes where the risk to reward ratio heavily favors the criminal. It takes 2 guys less than 2 minutes to break a steering lock and wheel a sport bike into a van. No broken glass, minimal noise, no second glances from nosy do-gooders. They also know that in most police jurisdictions, motorcycle theft is not something that is commonly investigated. The officer will make a police report, maybe put out a BOLO for the make and model, and that's about it. Bikes are often stolen as a crime of opportunity. Someone either young, dumb, on drugs, or a combination of all three may end up on one wanting to go for a joyride. Other times, motorcycles are stolen by career bike thieves who target your bike to sell it with a new VIN, strip it for parts, or ship it out of the country. This is as good a time as ever to discuss actually how people steal motorcycles, because if you know how, you have a better chance of knowing how to prevent it. Stealing a motorcycle isn't high-tech stuff. Thieves aren't rappelling in from the ceiling like that famed scene from Mission Impossible. In reality, it just comes down to brute force, speed, and repetition. First, they'll break the steering lock, which is a lot easier than you might think. A steering lock is usually a single metal pin that fits into a slot on the frame, so with enough force, often using leverage from their arms or legs, it can be broken pretty easily. A steering lock is designed to be a basic deterrent, not a theft-proof solution by any means. Once the steering lock is broken, the bike can be rolled in any direction into the back of a van, down the parking garage ramp, and just generally out of the owner's possession. If your bike has a disc lock, it can be removed with an angle grinder. If somebody is a professional, they can bypass the ignition and just ride the bike out themselves. They'll show up in full riding gear, two up with a buddy, steal someone's bike in a few minutes, and ride out into the night. Oh yeah, and if your bike has a tracker, a professional thief will probably find it and remove it. That's just a sad truth. In 2020, the Austin PD said that motorcycle thefts were at a 10-year high. More than 400 bikes were stolen that year, more than one a day. They also claim that many of those thefts came from apartment complexes and parking garages. So yeah, it's not the bikes parked out on the street in the neighborhood in the wrong side of the tracks. It's happening in the live, work, play downtown adjacent developments where people pay $2,000 a month for a 400 square foot studio apartment. Why? I mean, it's pretty clear. It's prime hunting ground. Tons of bikes in one place, probably nice newer models to boot, stored by the owner with a false sense of security. An apartment complex parking garage is really no safer than parking on the street, even if the website describes it as a highly secure gated parking facility. If the gate is even working, all a thief has to do is just follow a resident in before the gate closes. It's not rocket science, it's pretty easy. Or they can hop a fence or pry open a door, and once they're in, there are probably a handful of bikes to choose from, many without locks at all. And this isn't just in Austin. This pattern of targeting motorcycles in parking garages is very common in LA, Miami, Chicago. It's all the same story. Lo and behold, just like magic, we have another giveaway motorcycle. This is the Honda Hornet CB750, much anticipated here in the US market. And let me tell you guys, it hits all the marks. This thing absolutely lives up to the hype, and it's a giveaway bike on yammynoob.co. This one's gonna be gone before you know it. Towards the end of the year is gonna be the last chance you have to win this thing, so head over to the link down below, join up on yammynoob.co, become a member, get locked in to win this Honda Hornet CB750. What happens after your bike is gone? That's really the big mystery of this whole thing, and it depends a lot on who took it. If it's some idiot teenager or a crackhead who took it for a joyride, you might actually get it back. I've actually heard of that happening to people. But it'll probably be pretty trashed, either yeeted into a ditch, stashed under a bridge, or sprayed with truck bed liner, aka crackhead camouflage. Police departments all over the country say the same thing. If a motorcycle is recovered, it's usually going to happen in the first 48 hours. The NICB says that about 34% of stolen vehicles are recovered the same day, 45% within 2 days. But after that, just go ahead and start writing your R6's obituary and bid thee farewell. And like I said, even if it is recovered, it's probably totaled. Insurance companies don't mess around with bikes where the cost to repair could quickly surmount the value of the bike itself. It's usually just written off and they issue you a check. Now, what happens if your bike was stolen by a more organized type of bike thief? These guys aren't going to joyride your bike. Even if they ride it away after it's stolen, it's going to be ridden to someone's shop or warehouse somewhere as discreetly as possible. There are existing networks of thieves, fences, and chop shops that operate a pretty comprehensive stolen bike operation. They have tools, plans, and experience to make stealing bikes a pretty profitable endeavor. Once a bike is stolen and sold to a fence, it often ends up at a chop shop. From there, the operator has options. They can buy a wrecked bike of the same make and model and swap the VIN from the wrecked bike, or bring over parts from the stolen bike. And either way, end up with a whole machine with a legal VIN and even a title. This is why very popular and long-running models are a prime target for thieves. Japanese sport bikes being the cream of the crop. It's wild, but many of these stolen and revinned bikes end up getting sold at auctions where they could be very likely purchased by a dealer and then sold to the public. That great deal you got on your CBR 1000RR might be because it's a Frankenstein machine made of 3 stolen bikes. VIN tracking and reporting isn't as robust for motorcycles as it is for cars. Of course, you can see if the VIN has been reported stolen, but there isn't a universal Carfax type of database that tracks every movement a motorcycle makes during its lifespan. A motorcycle with a sketchy past may show up looking as good as any used bike can, even with a clean title, duplicate key in tow. Sometimes stolen motorcycles are even exported. In coastal cities, stolen bikes often end up in shipping containers heading for the Caribbean, Mexico, or Central America. They're created, stripped, or disguised as used vehicle parts. It's so common that law enforcement actually has a task force dedicated to tracking stolen vehicles through ports. I know, your R6 went on a vacation to the Bahamas. Great retirement plan. Let's talk about the bikes themselves. Which are the most popular among thieves? As I mentioned, Japanese sport bikes are the cream of the crop. Year after year, the NCIB reports the same list. Number 1 is Honda, number 2 is Yamaha, then Harley, Kawasaki, and Suzuki. In 2022, over 10,000 of the 55,000 stolen bikes were Hondas. Why? Honda isn't always the most desirable motorcycle make among enthusiasts. They're certainly not the most unique or exotic, but that's exactly the point. Hondas are everywhere. So on one hand, more Hondas are sold, so more will be stolen. It's the same logic that proves Honda to be one of the most deadly motorcycle brands. They sell a metric crapload of bikes, so more people are going to get hurt on them. Secondly, Honda's popularity is also what makes them ideal for thieves. Their parts are in demand, and the amount of wrecked models with clonable VINs are plentiful. And here in Austin, it's no different. The most common theft reports come from sport bikes. R6s, CBRs, Gixxers, fast, flashy, and common. Also, dirt bikes or enduro-style bikes are commonly stolen in some cities. If your city has a pack of wheelie boys that ride 12 o'clock nooners down the main street every weekend, dirt bikes or supermotos are probably a prime target for a 3 a.m. joyride. Alright, so let's talk about how to prevent motorcycle theft, because I don't want you to end the video just crying and thinking about your bike getting stolen. I know a lot of you watch this in the bathroom at work, and you don't need HR snooping around just because you come back from the John with tears stained all over your face. You don't need a vault to protect your motorcycle from theft. It just has to be harder to steal than the guys next to you. Haven't you ever heard that phrase? You don't have to run faster than a bear, you just have to run faster than the other guy running away from the bear. Having a tracker's nice, but it needs to be well hidden because otherwise a thief's gonna find it. Stuck under the seat in the battery compartment is not the most clever hiding spot. Most people are gonna figure that one out. With the help of law enforcement, a tracker may help them recover your bike more quickly before somebody has the chance to totally destroy it. A big ass chain and a ground anchor works pretty good too. Not a bike chain you get at Walmart, but a thick steel chain attached to something that's not going anywhere, like a ground anchor or a sturdy post in a parking garage. Alarm disc locks can be a pretty good deterrent, but they're pretty easily removed. But if it makes enough noise, it may cause the criminal to give up. But be aware, the alarms can sometimes be super sensitive and go off with a little intervention. A basic motorcycle cover does a lot as a deterrent as well. Out of sight, out of mind really goes a long way. If you park in a shared garage, parking in different spots can help stay off people's radars as well. Parking near cameras or near lights is also wise. If motorcycling is a non-negotiable in your life, try living in a place that gives you access to a private garage. But most importantly, having comprehensive insurance that covers theft. That's really the best you can do. It's worth mentioning modern bikes are getting a little bit better with keyless ignitions or built-in immobilizers or onboard GPS tracking through the bike's actual software. But as vehicles get smarter, so do thieves. Like I said, good insurance is key. And keep in mind, you're going to want to do a mix of all of these strategies if you want to keep your bike as safe as possible. But me personally, I always tuck that thing away in a garage. At the end of the day, motorcycle theft might not be something you think about until it happens to you. It's not super random and it's definitely not rare. It's a little unnerving to think about how there is a whole underground industry at work. A tweaker wants to joyride your leader bike? Yeah, I can wrap my head around that. But an organized ring of people cloning VINs, part swapping bikes, and knowing that your stolen personal motorcycle could end up being sold to someone at a dealership the next state over is pretty crazy. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Drop your stolen bike story or experience down in the comments below. I'd like to hear more firsthand accounts of your experiences. Let me know if you ended up getting your bike back or anything else you got for me. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.